growing up in the Midwest, you went for a walk outside and there was a dog in the yard, it was going to chase at you and bark and scream and be very angry and violent.
It happened in New Hampshire, too.
You walk around New York and there are dogs on the street and they just like politely nod, like good morning, and walk on by. You discovered Screen.
I did. At my new internship thing, I've been doing a lot of work on command line stuff. I usually have done work in command lines, but I've literally been spending 8 hours a day sitting at a command line, and it just sort of happened that I was like, I use this thing sometimes to talk over serial consoles. I know it can do crazy other things.
Well, so explain to the viewers who may not be up to date on 1987 technology what Screen is.
Okay, so here's how I discovered and now use Screen.
Mm.
So Screen is an application that is built into most Unix platforms nowadays. It comes pre-installed in Mac OS X, and it comes pre-installed in Ubuntu, and a lot of other flavors of Unix. And originally, all I knew that it could do was talk to serial devices. So if you run like Screen and you point it at your serial port,
what is a serial device, Alex?
A serial device is a weird thing that you sometimes see on like devices
from the 90s.
Well, no, actually, you can still get, like, if you buy a projector, it'll have, like, a serial control port on the back of it. Because, it is really old, but it lets you send low-level commands, and it lets you just sort of see what a device is doing. It's very useful when a device is booting up, because you can see a lot of messages go by before it's, like, had a chance to initialize the screen, or initialize the network stack, or do anything but basically power on.
Right.
And so I use Screen a lot to like watch things as they boot up. And then I was sitting at the command line and I was like, I need to open 2 files at once. How can I do this? I was like, wait, Screen can split things. And so when you have a terminal on like a Unix system and you don't have like a window manager, you literally just have a bunch of text on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
Then Screen can be useful to split that one terminal into multiple terminals.
Yes.
Which is all I really use it for right now. People do all sorts of crazy things with it. You sent me a screenshot on Twitter with like a million things going on. Explain what you've been doing.
Well, so 2 things. First off, if you're trying to open 2 files, that should be something that you're doing in your editor, not in Screen.
Yeah, but like Screen was a thing I wanted to use.
Well, fine. So, yes, I sent you a screenshot, and it is not Screen, because Screen is 1987 technology.
Okay.
And is old and terrible.
Yep.
No. Screen is actually very, very useful. One of the things that I found particularly nice about Screen is that one of the just obnoxious problems is that if you spin up like a very tiny web server or whatever inside your terminal, and then you log out of that machine, then everything that you started dies.
Just dies.
It just dies.
Gone forever.
And you can go ahead and write what's called daemon scripts that'll go ahead and take the process and move it outside of your terminal into its own little bit of the machine where it can run happily forever and ever, whether or not you stay logged in. Screen, you can detach from, and it will keep running, which is a wonderful thing. It used to be that, I would go ahead and log into remote servers places, spin up a Screen instance, and then just set it up so that whenever I log back in, it would reattach me to that Screen session.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I could basically have this whole environment. I could log off or disconnect, or my internet could die or whatever. I could jump back in and nothing disappeared, which is great.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've disconnected my SSH connection in like a week, and they're just connected to a switch on my desk. So,
okay,
I haven't really had the need for persisting sessions.
I mean, every so often there's just like obnoxious packet loss or whatever, and then you're like, I had 87 things happening though, and they're all dead now because I dropped my connection.
Knowing me, that will probably I'll be fine now because I've been running everything inside Screen. But that would happen if I was like building something. Oh, look, it's compiling. It's 99% done. Oh,
right.
And packet lost and everything is gone.
Exactly. In addition to being able to split things, you can also set up multiple, I don't remember what the exact term is, but effectively multiple tabs, so that you can basically just switch, from different environments, which is nice. If you don't need things that are side by side, you can just, I've got my first screen that is 3 different splits, and then a second screen that is something else, and such and such and such.
So do you do most of your work from inside a terminal editor as well, then?
Yes, almost exclusively. Okay. I mean, other than having to use a browser to look at the results of a lot of what I do, that's pretty much it. Occasionally, I'm in Photoshop for slicing up some mocks, but that's about it.
Okay.
And just about everything that I do is inside the terminal. And what I screenshotted you was not actually screen. This is tmux.
I've heard of that as well. I have no idea what it is.
I have emailed you the book on tmux.
The book on tmux.
You should have a copy of it, because it is very, very good. It's by my mentor, Brian Hogan. One of the things that I really like about tmux is, in addition to having general configuration settings that you can set up, you can also set up project level settings, which is something that I do a lot. So basically, I say, I want to work on this application. I type in a few commands, and all of a sudden, I now have 7 windows inside this one terminal that are split the way that I want them, and that are running all of these background processes that are necessary for me to work on that particular command. So the screenshot I sent you was an example of, I had up just a dummy JavaScript file and a test for that JavaScript file, and then in a separate pane, I had a linter, which is a tool that you can use to kind of syntax check and make sure that you're not doing anything particularly stupid in your code. And then automatic rerunning of tests as well.
Oh, automatically rerunning. So as you change things in your software, like how often does it rerun?
On save.
Okay, on save.
Yep. So anytime I make a change, all of a sudden it'll go ahead and the linter will run, which is just, it'll go through and say, you probably need a semicolon here, or you shouldn't use this syntax because it's outdated, or particularly buggy, and you can set up all sorts of rules with that. And then the test will also run and go, oh, this part broke based on what you last did. So I no longer have to, stop editing what I'm doing to go ahead and run tests or anything like that. I can just edit, and then, at any point in time, I can go like, okay, save, and then all those things will go ahead and rerun across the entire suite. And I know, okay, it works, or it doesn't, or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, tmux is the way of the future, and it's basically just screen but extended. I think screen, trying to remember, for a long time it could only do one sort of split.
It's weird. Some versions of screen allow you to enter the command line and run split with an argument, so you can get a vertical split, which will cut your screen, up and down. So you have like the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen. By default, it will just split horizontally. So you have half the screen on the top and half on the bottom, which I think is less useful.
Yeah, generally that's not what I tend to want. If I want 2 things side by side, I want them side by side.
Yeah,
because you're using them. You're looking at one as a reference while working in another, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Yeah.
So no, I've got tmux set up that basically with a particular keystroke, I can go ahead and just quickly split vertically. I can quickly split horizontally. I can resize all of those. I can set up a new tab where I can run other things. It's great. And of course, I use that along with Vim, which has all of that stuff inside the editor. Vim being a text and file editor tool.
Yeah.
With all of its own happy, crazy config stuff.
Vim has a particular cult following around it. I guess Emacs does too, but I don't know.
Emacs has more of a cult following around it, I would almost argue.
But it's a smaller cult following. It's a smaller cult following, but they're more dedicated.
It is a smaller but much louder cult following. It is the Free Software Foundation fanatics. They're very, very sad with internet these days.
It's too slow. That's the big problem with the internet. It's too slow.
Not according to the Free Software Foundation.
We need gigabit Ethernet. Yeah, we all have a gigabit Ethernet. We need gigabit internet. I always mix those 2 words up. They're too similar. Whoever decided Ethernet was a good idea, looking at you, IEEE, for a naming thing. Actually, probably Ethernet came before internet.
Well, now I'm curious as to whether internet is actually like a sanctioned word under any sort of registering body, or if it's just the cultural term that we've ended up
I mean, it must be. I mean, it stands for Internetwork, right? I would have to imagine that's an official term now.
I need to look this up now.
Okay.
I'm Googling Wikipedia Internet, which is probably the most surreal experience I've had in my life.
I wonder which word came first, Internet or Ethernet? Kind of like the chicken and the egg problem. Well, I mean, is Ethernet... Not even necessarily...
I don't know. I would imagine that, well... I would imagine we at least had networking prior to Ethernet. Because Ethernet was a standardization of the cable that we use for handling that sort of thing.
Well, Ethernet isn't necessarily the cable itself. Like, you used to be able to do Ethernet over, like, different types of cables. You used to have, like, Ethernet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Internet is derived from the Internet Protocol Suite, which it's so hard to figure out where DARPANET ends and
the Internet begins. There's no, like... Why isn't there, like, a big battle or something that we can say, like, this was the turning point, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know.
Well, remember, we stopped saying Internet for a long time. It was just the web, and the World Wide Web was the big thing.
I don't remember that, Kevin.
Well, you are way too young.
I'm only not that much younger than you, Kevin.
So I have no idea. If any of our listeners think that they know when we definitively started calling things the Internet, and when we definitively started calling things Ethernet, and want to tell us which came first, feel free to write in and let us know.
Yeah, especially on an iTunes review.
Yes, absolutely. iTunes reviews. I went in. I gave us 5 stars. I was tempted to take off a star.
Okay. Did you write anything?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
I felt that might display my bias.
I wrote a very biasy thing that hasn't been posted yet, so maybe
interesting.
There's actually like a review committee that looks over iTunes reviews.
Well, you're in no way associated, according to what they know.
Yeah, well, that's very true.
Unless they're doing voice pattern matching across other internet things, or other web things, or other Ethernet things.
Other Ethernet things?
Yes.
Maybe it's the Ethernet, not like Ethernet, but like the mystical, magical Ethernet.
There we go. Well, that's the thing, is we need to get rid of the internet and the web. We should just start calling everything the ether. I think the ether would be a much cooler name than the cloud. Where did the cloud come? Who came up with that?
Some guy who was like laying on the ground and looking up and trying to decide how to name something, and it floated by, and he went, okay, we'll go with that.
Actually, this brings up a point. I was talking with my parents, and I don't know how this came up, but they were reading in some article, and it said IoT.
Okay.
And I went, what the heck is that? And I said, it's the Internet of Things. And they said, that still doesn't answer the question. I'm like, yes, you're right. Internet of Things is a terrible, terrible term. It explains nothing about what it's talking about at all. And yet, we're now at the point where we're like, all right, this is a terrible, terrible expression, but now we're just going to acronym it because for some, like, we're not even going to give you the terrible term. It's good. Oh, yeah, just think about IoT. You're like, what?
Yeah, it's not even like a pronounceable. I know there's a difference between an unpronounceable and a pronounceable acronym. I don't know what the difference
acronyms
is.
Are pronounceable and the initialisms are not, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it's not even an acronym, right? Because IOT, how do you even say it? Yeah.
We got to get some more IOT going on, man.
Yeah,
there was not enough IOT at CES.
Yeah. There were smart glasses, though, at CES.
Were there? I don't know. I tried to just avoid clicking and reading all of the link baity articles, and then I went looking. I was like, can I get like the article that's just the, hey, we know you didn't want to read all of the other stuff. Here's like the 10 things that you should know about what happened this past week of spam. Like, and I couldn't find a good one.
Yeah, neither could I. I just happened to click on things that I particularly piqued my interest. Smart glasses are something that I really kind of want to try out. Unfortunately, there weren't like any real products there. It was just a couple of different companies who had smart glass screens. Mm-hmm. So they had the screen part. They were missing like the hardware and the operating system, and they just had like a little demo reel that was like literally just playing a video on the screen.
Right.
So yeah, we're still a bit ways off from that.
So tell me if this is... I don't know if this is true for you, but I have been... when it comes to technology and space and a lot of things, I've been progressively more disappointed.
What do you mean?
Or less excited, I guess.
Did you not see the video I just posted about space?
We'll get to that. We will get to that.
Okay.
But in particular, the thing about space is that I've been reading some old sci-fi stuff from the 60s and earlier, and they're so freaking excited, man. I would love to be that excited. They're like, we're going to go to Mars, and there are going to be Martians, and we're going to have space battles, and things are going to be amazing. And now we're like, Mars is mostly dead, and the planet, the moon is going to... We don't know yet. The moon is going to break up and destroy everything.
The moon... What? No one is saying that,
No,
Kevin.
the moon of... which I can't remember which one. Maybe it's Deneth. No, Deneth is a small one. Yeah, I think it's Phobos is breaking up and will be gone eventually, and there's no way to make Mars habitable, and
there's totally a way to make Mars habitable.
Space is just empty and dull and dying, and eventually we're going to get to the heat death of the universe. Sad. And in technology, I've not been excited. Like they're always, we're going to have a keynote, and they're going to go here. It's a minor improvement, and the battery is still terrible. I'm like, all right, I'm glad I tuned in for that one. Or the Consumer Electronics Show, where they're like, here's a demo of something that we maybe could do one day. I'm like, that looks like a good idea. Are you doing it? They're like, no. Check back in like 10 years. This is like crazy impossible. And I'm like, well, why?
That's always been a problem with CES.
Well, yeah, so this is my proposal is that, Alex, you and I need to start up not a consumer electronics show, but like a real electronics show. Basically something that is restricted to only things that you can ship or are really cool DIY hacks. Basically, like 95% of the conference is random stuff people did with the Raspberry Pi.
But that you can now do yourself. They've released the code. So anything you see at this conference, you can have.
Yeah, exactly.
Assuming you have the money.
Assuming you have the money. It's like you look at the CES like this, and you're like, okay, that looks kind of cool enough to get excited about, and I can imagine ways to make it better and ways to play around with that. And can I try it? Nope.
Well, no. I mean, you can try it while you're there. If you go there.
Right, but it's not something that could have an impact on your life in any reasonable time frame.
I did see one interesting thing come out of CES that will be out this year. Dell had an OLED monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $5,000. And I was like, I will never buy that. Right. And it is available, and you can buy it.
Right.
And it is gorgeous. So where would that be allowed at this show is what I'm asking?
I guess, but I'd want to keep that that'd definitely be not the majority of things. I mean, basically, I want the people who are reading the news stories or who go to the event to have license to be excited.
Okay.
It's like if when someone's like, "Hey, we made this really crazy car and it's $70,000." Cool, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure, like, it matters to some one person. It does not matter to most of us. If someone's like, hey, we figured out this really cool way to do this thing with a Raspberry Pi so that you could have a butler that makes your drinks now. Like, that's cool. Like, cool. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I could be excited about it. Like, yay, we're living in the future.
Are you subscribed to, like, r/Tesla Motors on Reddit?
No.
Because it literally is like half the posts of that are, hey, look, I bought a Tesla. Literally. So it's like, could you imagine if r/Apple was like that? Hey, I bought an iPhone.
Well, right. But this is the thing, though,
Raspberry Pi.
So this is like Tesla is doing some wonderful things. Like, I'm not gonna denigrate them. Mm-hmm. But the fact that I bought a Tesla is a news story means that it's not a product that changes people's lives. This means that the fact that you could afford to purchase something is like a story and an event means it's not exciting. It's not exciting. Yep. This is supposed to be the consumer electronics show, not the like internal one-upmanship show. Like, it's like, as a consumer, I should walk away going, oh my god, I'm so excited, I want to buy all these new toys. I'm like, nope, there's nothing that most of the stuff I can't buy, and the few things that I can, I won't, because they are ridiculously expensive.
I mean, you can tell that this is what CES was about by the whole point of when they held it. They held it in January.
Oh, yeah.
The furthest point from when people buy things.
Yes.
Possible.
Right. But there's a gap, Alex. This is all I'm saying, is that there should be some, and if that's the case, then why are people reporting on it? They're reporting it for consumers. There needs to be some sort of thing that is devoted toward consumers that are excited about technology that can be excited about the technology that exists and is usable and affordable.
Yeah, people are going to this and like posting about it because, you know, places like Engadget and The Verge need to make money.
Right.
And that's basically why CES exists.
Well, right. But I mean, I want a thing that I can be excited about. I mean, and the thing that's interesting to me, though, is that I've not been excited about Google or Apple keynotes either. Like, that used to be the case. Like, it used to be you tune in and you're like, whoa, absolutely. Mind blown. That's incredibly cool. It is pretty expensive, but, oh, man, one day I'd really like to get one of those. These are things where I'm like,
So, occasionally, when Apple does announce their new like laptop lineups, like when I got pretty excited when Apple released their new MacBook, like the little one. Like, I it's not personally a product that I can use, but it was like I'm really excited about this product. It's really cool. It has like I can see where they're going to take this technology and put it in like the laptops that I use.
But this is like the takeaway from everything. This doesn't work for me, but I'm excited because I can see where they might be going with this one day. Like, that is, if I were to summarize CES and every keynote that I've seen in the past 5 years, that would be my takeaway.
So the last time I was really excited for things, with two things that stick out in my mind. One, Google, when they announced their Google Glass, and they had the person skydive in, I was like, holy cow, that's amazing. I'm excited for this.
Yep.
And the second one was when Apple announced their Retina MacBook Pro, which I think both of us are using right now, basically.
Yes.
Like, they had it rise out of the floor, and like there'd been like rumors about it, so like I knew what was coming, and I was like, yes, Phil Schiller's on stage. It's happening. High resolution is here.
To me, though, I was less excited. I'm thinking, like, I want an iPhone or iPad launch, please. Mm-hmm. The Apple Watch was not that. Like, because it's a hey, remember that thing that everyone's been, you know, kind of releasing their own versions of? We're releasing our own version of it. Hooray!
No, I agree.
You know, and the MacBook. Yes, the Retina MacBook is a great thing and it's wonderful, but it is also just a further iteration of something that exists.
At the time, it felt like a giant leap forward. Like, they got rid of the disk drive. They made everything thinner. It's light. It has good battery life. It has a high-resolution screen, dedicated like, it was everything I wanted at the time, and I was very excited.
I mean, if this is something where, like, yes, I am looking for exactly this version of something, and I want to buy this, and then, But it wasn't I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like, but I haven't seen it recently. It feels like things should be moving even faster and faster. I mean, that's been kind of the telescoping nature of technology up until recently, and now it's just, hey, it's a slightly better iPhone than the last slightly better iPhone, or a slightly better Android thing than the last Android thing, or, you know, a crazy car that you can't afford, but now that the rich guy who's not quite as rich as the richest guy you know can afford. Like, it's very minor improvements, and it makes me sad because I like being excited about tech, and I feel like that's not it doesn't happen anymore.
No, I definitely agree. I found myself checking tech blogs less recently, like over the past year or so. I don't know if that's more of me trying to filter out more news and filter out more noise, as it is being generally like seeing the industry move forward. But I've definitely noticed that. Like, I have less tech blogs in my like bookmarks and stuff, and I check the ones I do check less often.
Right. I want there to be a keynote that people are talking about for the next 2 years. Like, that's all, and I don't care who makes it. It could be Bezos. I don't know. I want something to be super excited about again. Because I'm feeling like I'm just becoming like this tech cynic who's like, I'm getting rid of things, and I'm trying to shrink down to just like the few devices that I want to have now. And
yeah, So you just want to be surprised by something, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want someone to come out and announce this cool thing that you've never thought of before, and do it in a really memorable way.
I want someone to come out, and I want to walk out of a keynote or close the keynote live stream, and I want to go, holy crap, we're in the future now. You know what I mean by that sensation, though?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I don't think that has happened recently at all.
When was the last time you remember it happening?
I think the iPhone was, to some extent, that.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that was how Jobs presented that.
Right.
Like, he had the three things and, like, the cube, and then, like, the audience suddenly realized it was the same thing.
But I don't feel like I'd have walked away from the Apple Watch launch with that attitude, even if Jobs had hyped it up.
Well,
Like, I think, granted, to be fair, if they had found a way to, like, bring him back, then yeah, I'd been, wow, we're definitely in the future now. Like, I'd be very, very excited. I'd talk about that for a very long time.
The Apple I Don't Die.
Right.
That's what it's going to be called.
I live, yeah.
I don't know, man.
But okay, so to get back to space, I can't believe we didn't talk about this last week, Alex.
I know.
What is wrong with us? Oh my gosh. So, for those of you who, for whatever reason, don't care about the awesomeness that is space, and somehow didn't hear about this, we landed the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket.
Yeah, we did it. We were directly
Alex
responsible
and I
for it.
Personally launched and recovered a Falcon 9 rocket first stage.
Yeah, we did. It was great.
Took a lot of Raspberry Pis. They were like daisy chained. We had a whole bunch of networking. It was crazy. Lots of Ethernet going on.
We literally just had an Ethernet cable going up to the rocket.
Exactly.
So we could tell it to turn around. Like,
Well, and we had to wrap it in aluminum foil so it wouldn't get burnt up by the heat and stuff of re-entry.
Yeah, it was great. It helped to have it shielded too, because, you know, like, we didn't want stray photons or nonsense messing up our signals.
Right, exactly.
So if you didn't see, there's a great video which I'm sure Kevin will put in the show notes.
Yes.
Hint, hint, Kevin.
I've always put things in the show notes.
I know. I don't know. I decided to make it more obvious because I didn't want you to forget this amazing video. That really made me want to, like, go work for SpaceX.
Right.
Like, I know, it's great. So there's a great video. The Falcon 9 rocket, which SpaceX has launched many times
Musk
before.
Industries.
Musk Incorporated has launched many times before, but this time they had the first stage booster after it sent off the second stage and sent it into a successful orbit. It was like, hey, I don't want to fall in the ocean this time. I want to come back. So it started falling back.
Whoa! I think we may be burying the lead. If we have an artificially intelligent first stage booster, that is an even bigger story. And now I'm going to go, okay, we're in the future.
I'm not convinced it was unintelligent. So it burns itself in a heading back towards the launch site, and then it shuts off the engine, and then it waits until it gets just, like, close enough to do a suicide burn.
Right.
So it lights up the engine at the last possible moment, burns it, deploys landing legs, and lands. And it worked.
Yes.
It's great.
It is insane.
It's the greatest
thing.
Like,
I got to be honest, Alex. I watched the video and I cried.
I didn't cry.
Like a little baby.
I did open the SpaceX careers page and then went, I have a job on the other side of the country. Wait a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, man. I would like to work for them. Why
don't you? You should work for them.
I don't think anybody can afford to work for them.
Their average salary is $103,000 a year in LA. True? Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
That's the average software engineering salary. People complain about SpaceX salaries.
Well, see, I've heard that basically the salary's really bad, and then just the working conditions and stuff are incredibly stressful.
Conditions. The working conditions are very stressful, but the pay isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Mm-hmm. It would be bad if they were in San Francisco, but the cost of living in LA is significantly less.
Yeah, I mean it's still not great, but yeah, that's a reasonable salary, I think. But I don't know that I could handle the stress of Oh man, can you imagine like just being in the launch control room when the rocket blew
I
up?
imagine that all the time.
No, but not the good one, the bad one.
No, I mean, yeah, that would be interesting too. I would want to be there if it blew up because that would be interesting. I heard from some friends who either work at SpaceX or know people who work at SpaceX that after that happened, everyone who worked at SpaceX like went dark. They stopped like tweeting and talking to their friends. It was like all hands on deck 24/7 for weeks.
Oh yeah, I mean, I imagine that's got to be. I mean, that's got because that's probably not even just a company policy thing, but it's an FAA policy thing. Is basically you are not allowed to have outside communication until such and such a time.
But they were all working the whole time as well.
Well, yeah.
So it's not like they had free time to be like. The way I heard it was that they were not necessarily because of regulatory, but they were just so engulfed in their work that they had no time to really communicate with anyone else.
Right. That was the first one that I watched live.
Good job, Kevin.
I know. This is the thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I caused this thing to explode. I don't know what happened.
I really want to see him do it on the barge now. The barge would be so cool.
See, that's the thing that's interesting to me is because it feels so. Basically, SpaceX has taken two different strategies to recovering their first stage. One is to basically it gets up, it launches off its not the payload, but the second stage, and then the first stage turns back around and lands back, near the launch pad on a flat kind of secondary launch pad, a landing pad. The second strategy is that they have this drone barge that is enormous that just flies out into the Atlantic.
It doesn't fly; it floats.
No, it flies out.
It's not like the Shield helicarrier.
No, they just duct tape a whole bunch of first stages.
Okay.
No, so it sails out to the Atlantic, so that basically the rocket can fire up and then doesn't have to turn around, just doesn't make orbital velocity and then falls back down and then does the same sort of suicide burn thing. Now they've had failed attempts with that strategy. I don't know that they've had a failed attempt landing back on land.
No, I don't think they have either. I mean, the problem with landing on the barge is that like the ocean is moving up and down, everything's all wobbly, so you have to really get it perfect, immediately. And I mean, the other thing is, I think there's a less tolerance for fuel error. Like, obviously, turning around is burning a lot of fuel.
So this is the thing that doesn't make sense to me at all. It feels like if you basically that landing on the barge is much easier from a fuel conservation perspective.
Right, yep.
And I don't understand, because, you've got to turn around. You basically are not only canceling out your vertical velocity, well, gravity cancels that out, but you're having to spend fuel canceling and then reversing your lateral velocity. Now we're going west instead of east, which is kind of crazy. Whereas
I don't know how far
if you're just going to this barge, you're like, we're going to space. Oh, never mind, we're just falling back a little bit. And then you land. Yep. You don't have to, exert the extra fuel to do that.
It's definitely a lot more sensible to have the barge. It's just a lot harder. It only works on certain orbits, basically, to turn around.
Oh, okay.
So turning around is only an option on certain orbits. Like, I think their next launch, they're going to try the barge again because they just don't have the fuel to turn around.
Right.
So they have a whole bunch of launches scheduled for the coming year. And they're predicting they'll have like 20 of these like reused boosters ready to try out and actually use them again. They're not going to reuse the first one. They're going to dry fire it, I think, tomorrow in Cape Canaveral and just make sure everything's working. I think, and then they're going to put it in a museum.
Because that's the big test, right? I mean, the whole reason for doing this is so that you don't have to, I think they tried to recover first stages with parachutes, like not SpaceX necessarily, but they've tried to recover first stages, empty spent stages with parachutes, and with very mixed results, because basically if you don't get to it in time, usually it's in the ocean and doesn't float very well.
And then water's all inside it, and it's just a big mess.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you can recover the thing, basically the whole idea is, hey, look, we don't have to build a new booster. We can just use this one again. That's, I think, probably the bigger test than even just getting it landed, because the cost savings come from being able to reuse these things.
Right, exactly. And so this one's not going to get reused. They're going to test it to make sure they could reuse it. And then assuming like that goes well, then like one of the next ones that they're going to land back again when they have other launches that meet the orbital requirements to be able to turn back around. They're going to probably run one of those up sometime later this year.
Right.
Because they're supposed to get like 23. There's like 23 planned launches or something that are going to follow this orbital trajectory that allows recovery. But I want to see him do the barge. I really want to see him do the barge.
Well, that brings up the second point, though, is that, to me, it feels like the landing, there's a lot, that seems a lot more dangerous.
I mean, it's more dangerous, but they did it in Cape Canaveral, so, like,
where
there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people.
No, only the people who know about rockets.
I mean, some of them. I mean, it wasn't Houston.
Still, though, I don't. Do you know what I mean? Though, like, I would have expected that they would solidify the barge thing, just because it ain't gonna hurt anybody if it goes wrong. Like, I can. Maybe I just have an overactive imagination, or I'm just pessimistic about the tolerances or whatever. And I'm sure that they had some sort of auto destruct, so they could have exploded the thing if they knew in advance it was going to be a problem. But I just would have imagined that basically getting the barge landing first would have been kind of the natural progression.
Well, here's the thing. They've never missed the barge. It's never just gone like down into the ocean.
Right.
They've always hit the barge.
Right.
So I would say that they had arguably perfected the landing well enough to be able to, they were going to hit this landing pad. It may have a lot of burns on it when we're done. Right. But we're going to hit the pad, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think they had perfected it enough. I mean, obviously their first attempts were on the barge for reasons. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Actually, I think the first barge landing, they simply ran out of fuel.
They did. They ran out of, I think, hydraulic fluid or something for like the some of the regulators and stuff that help adjust the positioning. I don't know how they ran out of hydraulic fluid. But I think they ran out of hydraulic fluid, like it developed a leak or something.
Okay.
So they put a lot more hydraulic fluid in.
Man, that's just got to be so crazy.
I know.
Like calculating a suicide burn in Kerbal Space Program is really hard.
Yeah, you know what I want to do? I've been thinking about this the last couple days. I know there's some mods and stuff for Kerbal Space Program that allow you to like stream in serial commands. Here we go, serial again. So you can have like real like physical controls for your Kerbal Space Program. Yep. I want to do that, except instead of having physical controls, I want to have like an Arduino or like a Raspberry Pi and like write a rocket control computer.
Alex, this is what KOS is.
No, I understand that, but I want a physical one that like I could unplug from Kerbal Space Program and plug into a real rocket and have it fly it.
Well, what you want to look at is KRPC, which is the Python bindings to that. Okay. Though I probably wouldn't invest too much time into it until the next version of KSP.
No,
that's going to be soon, and everything is going to break.
Yeah,
all of the
mods
are going to have big problems. Yes.
As we alluded to in our last podcast, they're moving to 64-bit.
Yay! KSP 64.
Does there a release like window for that?
No.
Okay.
You will know maybe a day in advance.
Well, sometimes we used to know a week in advance. Like Scott Manley would put up his video, and then you kind of knew it was coming.
That generally was because there were late bugs that delayed release.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess they've gotten better at that.
Ideally, you will know a day or two ahead of time. You may know a little, a little earlier than they might prefer. But yeah, space. Okay, so actually, I wanted to ask you if I can draw you into your future prediction antechamber.
Okay. All right. My future prediction amphitheater is ready to go.
What is the future of getting passengers to space look like? Like 20, 30 years down the road, when we have a station that's like a hotel.
Yeah.
Like when it's just a fun thing that you do on a whim. And it's like going to Vegas. What does that look like?
Okay, so you go to your nearest spaceport.
Okay.
It'll be like an airport. It'll probably convert a lot of airports, or the airports will add on spaceport capabilities. And you'll get in something that looks like a Star Trek shuttlecraft, and it'll be powered by the EM drive, and you'll just jet on up.
All right, so the EM drive will never ever have no. You can argue the EM drive for fuel efficiency. You could never argue the EM drive for thrust. It does not have anywhere near enough thrust.
You just use like a multi-terawatt beamed laser power.
That doesn't. No.
I mean, yes. If you sent like terawatts and terawatts and terawatts of beamed power to a large EM drive on board a shuttlecraft.
Alex, we're talking about the real hypothetical future, not the hypothetical future.
I mean, I can. That's what I believe will happen in the next 30 years.
You think that the EM drive is
50.01% chance of happening?
What?
I think it has slightly better odds than 50-50 of happening.
Within 20 and 30 years, you expect the EM drive to be stronger than Earth's gravity.
When you beam it terawatts of power via laser, yeah.
And we also have so much power that we can afford to use it that way.
Oh yeah, fusion.
Okay, within 20 to 30 years.
Fusion. There'll be like tokamachs at every single airport to beam all this power to the shuttlecraft.
All right, so now I'm curious. Like, are you trolling, or is this legitimately what you think?
I am only half trolling.
Okay.
I do actually think that is a conceivable future that could happen.
No, I mean, I'll agree that it's conceivable. I guess I should back up the question and just say, like, what would you think would be kind of the first commercial space travel mechanism that doesn't require 6 months of astronaut training? Basically, the thing that becomes the commercial shuttle that doesn't require prep on the part
definitely
of
Virgin Galactic. Virgin Galactic, I think their model is probably they've have some setbacks. They had that terrible accident a few years back, or I think just last year. But their model of like taking you up in an airplane and then shooting like a rocket plane out of that airplane is, I think, a pretty smart model. Because you go up pretty high in by conventional means, and then you don't necessarily go up to space. Like, I don't think it will work to get to a space station. It'll work to get to like high altitude balloon level, so like you can see the curvature of the Earth and that type of stuff. To get to places like a space station, I do think SpaceX will probably be the first to do anything commercially. I mean,
I guess the question is, are you thinking that it will be this type of rocket system, like traditional rockets with recoverable stages?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll basically be their Falcon with a Dragon capsule on top, and all the stages will be recoverable. And it won't be cheap, and it won't be like at every airport, but you can go to like Cape Canaveral and then spend like $100,000 and go up to the International Space Station or the SpaceX Station Mark V.
I'm trying to think. I think right now, what is it that NASA pays Russia for Soyuz seats? Is it like $1.5 million?
Yeah, if you won this lottery that's being drawn tonight for $1.5 billion, you could certainly go do that.
Alex, did you buy a lottery ticket?
I did not.
Good. Okay, I'm very proud of you, Alex.
Have you seen those websites? I love these websites. Mike Regnetta of PBS Idea Channel has been tweeting about particularly one a lot lately. Lets you like simulate like thousands and thousands of years worth of buying lottery tickets. He ran one for 200,000 years and never won the jackpot, buying one ticket every drawing, so twice a week.
Well, see, that's the thing is, I will say, I will not begrudge people that bought one ticket. I will inwardly sneer at people that bought more than one ticket.
Yeah.
Because to me, one ticket is buying yourself a license to legitimately fantasize that it's possible you could have a windfall.
I mean, I have more fun fantasizing about the EM drive. That's way more probable.
No, but I mean, like, I can understand the desire to purchase for that particular reason. Investing money with any sort of sense that you're going to get any sort of thing back, that hurts my brain.
Well, okay, so I will say one thing about this particular drawing. This was the first time in U.S. history where the expected outcome of buying all the tickets, all of them, even after taxes, still is higher than what you would pay for all the tickets. Because you can exhaust all of the tickets by buying 292 million and change tickets, and at $2 a pop, it's a little less than $600 million at a $1.5 billion jackpot.
Why hasn't anybody done that then?
Because if someone else wins, then you split the money and you've lost millions of dollars.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's why you don't just go buy all the tickets. Is because on the chance that someone else has the winning ticket, you've just lost so much money.
Right.
But if no one else wins and you buy all the tickets, then you're going to make like $25 million or something.
Huh.
So it's the first time that's ever happened.
That's interesting. Actually, I would be interested to know. I'd be interested to see some sort of site that simply tracked, because I don't particularly care what the jackpot is. I just care about the probable return. I mean, which is always going to be like a 0.000 whatever. But I would love to be able to see that wow, there is a $5 jackpot on this one, but nobody bought in. This is actually the smartest lottery investment that you could have ever made. Like, I'd love to be able to see something like that over time.
Well, the odds don't change. Like, if one person buys tickets versus a million people buy tickets, the odds don't change. Because they draw all the numbers.
But you can have duplicate tickets.
Oh, okay.
So
yes,
your investment does change. Like, if two people buy, then there's a slightly higher chance that even if you win, you don't win. You split it.
Well, if you buy one ticket and you win $1.5 billion,
no, I'm talking about the $5 scenario.
Oh, okay.
No, but like imagine if everybody on the planet bought a ticket.
Yeah.
Well, then you could find yourself splitting your 1.6 billion with 10,000 people. If everybody bought a huge amount of tickets or something like that. So it could be the sort of thing where the expected reward is less than it would be on something that was a smaller jackpot but had fewer people buying tickets. Yeah. So I'd just be interested to know that adjusted number.
Yeah, I don't know. I know people calculate the expected value of buying a ticket all the time. That frequently goes above positive. So the expected value is just the probability of winning multiplied by the amount you'd win subtracted, and you subtract from that the probability of losing multiplied by the amount you'd lose.
Right.
So when the jackpot is big enough, it's able to cancel out the fact that the odds are so little, and you wind up with like, if you buy this ticket, the expected value of return is $2.04.
Right.
Like,
but that doesn't include the probability of other people also winning, which is a factor.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't, and I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, so right? The model is wrong. Yeah. Well, so I mean, I don't know. I generally tend to be hostile toward lotteries. I think that they kind of exploit the fact that humans are really, really, really bad at intuitively understanding statistics. Even statisticians are really, really terrible at intuitively understanding statistics.
Oh, yeah. Like, humans are bad at understanding numbers, like, greater than 1,000.
We're bad at understanding numbers greater than 4.
I think we can at least go up to 10.
Well, no, because then you're at the point where you're actually chunking. Like, they've studied this, that basically, if you look at... I think there's actually, to some extent, they put this into IQ tests, or at least they did for a while, that basically, if you're looking at items that are scattered on a table, that we visually chunk them into, okay, that's 4 and 3, so that's 7 items. Whereas that we can intuitively go, there's 4 things. We don't group them as we're counting. But if I were to lay out like 100 Skittles and ask you how many there were, Alex, you'd logically start to group things into
the
discrete
colors.
Chunks, or the colors, and then you go ahead and total those up. But you can't intuitively grasp 100 things.
Okay.
And for most people, I believe it's somewhere between 4 and 7 is kind of the cap of the number of things they can intuitively grasp without reducing it into components of 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 or whatever.
Okay, I'll believe that. That makes sense. Oh, that's interesting. Because I always just kind of arbitrarily heard and then just believed that it was 1,000. But I guess that makes more sense.
I think 1,000 was like the cap of people that you can know.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
I'm trying to remember where that... Because 1,000 sounds familiar too, but I thought it was something else.
I mean, we're definitely bad at numbers greater than 1,000. The fact, like, dealing with 292 million is just, like, unreasonable. No one could ever do that.
Right. Well, I think, I don't know. I see these studies and then I wonder, like, well, maybe it's just a matter of your point of reference. Like, if you work in HR for a, fancy startup and you're like, okay, all of our developers are 100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, it's $1 million jackpot. Oh, wow. So that's 10 devs. That's 10 dev years, right?
Yeah. I mean, before benefits, so it's probably less than
right.
10 dev years.
No, but you know what I mean? That, like, if you just happen to have particular numbers that are meaningful to you, if you have, like, this number, the average full-time employee salary is such and such, and then you can understand things with reference to something else. I mean, obviously, it doesn't help you understand what $1 million is, but it helps you understand, like, this is roughly the value that I could get out of $1 million. Like, I could have 10 people work for me for a year.
But, like, 10 is a number we can understand, so we're only understanding it by proxy, by just representing it as things that we understand.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Lotteries kind of bug me.
Yeah, I don't know if I guess I don't see a reason to get rid of them. I don't necessarily think that, I don't know. The fact that they go to education is like, if they, like, went to anything else but education, I'd be like, no, get rid of them.
They go to cancer research, and I was like, no, enough of this. We're not going to have people spending money on cancer research. Shut it down.
Well, Joe Biden's in charge of that now, so we should be fine. But, like, the lottery should now be a self-fulfilling thing. Like, it should disappear if it's working well, right? Because it's going to educate people better so they know about statistics and therefore don't buy.
I don't think that's I mean, basically, our understanding, I mean, they've done studies about intuitive understandings of numbers and statistics. Like, there was I think it was in Thinking Fast and Slow, they talked about the study that they did where basically they polled statisticians by having them review a whole bunch of academic papers and asked them if the results were legitimate based on the sample size that was shown. Mm-hmm. The statisticians got it wrong all the time, too.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Because we don't have an intuitive, like, you go, okay, I want to know if this drug cures cancer. I'm going to test 30 people. Is that enough to know that that's a reasonable? Yeah, that's a reasonable thing.
No.
I don't know at all because I have no idea about experimental statistics. But the point is that even the statisticians who did this sort of research intuitively in that environment, they were given the opportunity to read it and then needed to give kind of their gut reaction within a short time frame.
So totally could, calculate things.
Totally got it wrong. Well, I don't remember exactly the specifics of the experiment, but the point is that it's not just something that, well, if we were just smarter, we'd understand stats better, or even that if we were more better educated in statistics, we'd understand it better. It's a problem with just humans living kind of in the middle between tiny things and big things, and not having an intuitive.
Yeah, we
grasp
really
of
are. We are really like in the middle. Like we're like the same distance away from like an electron as we are like the sun.
Right.
Right. We're like in the middle. It's weird.
Well, though it's entirely possible that the sun is tiny relative to something. I mean, it could just be that's
it is.
A bias of our own perspective as well. But in the same way that we don't have any intuitive understanding of X-rays. The only way that we understand X-rays is by taking all of those points and shifting them down into the visible light spectrum, and they're like, oh, so it's like this by analogy.
Yeah.
And
no, you're
it's,
right.
It's exactly the same thing with numbers, that we think about 1 billion as being, okay, that's 10 of these things, or, you shift it into the frame of reference that we do have a grasp of.
Like, and it's like we can only see one, like, slice of the fourth dimension. It's time. We don't see all of time at once. We just kind of
Maybe you don't see all the time at once. I don't know. I see
Kevin,
tons of time, man.
Kevin, if you can see more than one time at once, why haven't you bought a lottery ticket?
Well, also, because I know that way too many bought the right number, and so it wouldn't be worth the $2.
What? What? How is it? What? So you think that, like, 750 million people bought the right ticket?
No. It's a fifth of that, but they all bought 5 tickets. with the
Oh,
with the
okay.
same number. So
Okay. Why would they ever do that? Why?
well, so they get a bigger slice of the pie when they win. They also can see time like I can.
Okay. All right. Whatever. I think we should be using your power for good, but whatever.
I'm not entirely convinced that time is a dimension, given how subjective it is. That it kind of falls out of other properties. I'm not sure that it really works as a
Are
dimension.
you disagreeing with Albert Einstein, Kevin?
No. I'm pointing out Einstein to refute your perspective on it. It would work if the dimension were consistent across reference frames. Time is not consistent across reference frames.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so I'm not sure that it really works as a dimension rather than just a property that falls out of other properties within the three dimensions. I don't dispute that there are other dimensions. I just don't know that I would consider time to be one.
I remember string theory used to postulate that there were 11 dimensions, 10 of space and 1 of time. And I never really could grasp that. I mean, they were conceivably rolled up and just stored away in some weird way, but I never understood it. I never understood how there were 11 dimensions. I liked the fact there were 11 dimensions. I liked to spout off that information that according to string theory, there are 11 dimensions because I thought it was really cool. I never understood why that was the case.
See, I feel like this is roughly our relationship with science. It's like we've heard things and we're excited to be able to share those things. We don't really understand what those things mean, but we can slowly start to draw analogies between those things and other things and start to try and get a clue of what might be going on. But we have no background in any of this, obviously.
Yeah, that was something I tried to understand, though. Like, I spent time reading into it, and I just never got a better understanding than there are 10s of space and 1 of time.
There are 4 lights. Right.
There are 4 lights. Yes, there are. Now, you just made me think of that stupid dress. What have you done, Kevin?
What?
That stupid dress.
What?
That no one could tell what color it was.
Oh. Yeah, that was fun.
That was not fun.
That
That was a year ago. How was that already a year ago?
I don't know.
What is up with this weird dimension of time? Why does it go so weirdly?
It's not. It's an emergent property.
An emergent property of the dress.
It's emergent property of gravitational fields and causality.
Do you think we'll ever have we're going back to gravity plating? But do you think
This is the most
gravitons
linear.
are real?
This is the most linear causality based podcast we've ever done.
I agree. Do you think gravitons are a thing and that we'll ever control them?
So explain to the dear viewers what you mean when you say graviton. By which I mean explain to me what you mean when you say graviton.
So when you turn on a light, you can see things because photons are the carrier packet for the electromagnetic spectrum. So photons carry the information about the wavelength of light away from the light source, reflect off things, and reflect into your eye, and you pick up them. And you can see. Mm-hmm. Gravitons are the carrier signal for gravity.
Oh, right.
So
right.
when things have mass, gravitons are emitted, and our bodies and other massive objects pick that up and know to be attracted to them.
Right.
Is the way I understand it.
Right. No, there's a great Vsauce video, What If the Sun Disappeared?
Yeah.
And he shows this diagram of, basically Jupiter would still orbit where the sun was for a long period of time because Jupiter wouldn't know that the sun was gone. Like, it would still be experiencing the propagation of gravity. Not that it wouldn't know. That's trying to personify things that are not. But
well, I think that actually ties into this overstanding question of this podcast. What is information? Because there is physics notions of information, and maybe gravity is just information. It wouldn't know not to be attracted to where the sun is because it doesn't know the sun isn't there.
I mean, gravitational waves do propagate at the speed of light. So yes, if the sun disappeared, Pluto would still spin around the sun for a reasonable amount of time,
like a day.
No, I mean not forever.
Not a Plutonian day.
Not
like
a Plutonian day. But yes, basically the time that it would take for light to get from the sun to Pluto.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So yeah, I mean there's some, I don't know what the mechanism is by which gravitational waves are propagated. It could be that there's some sort of particle.
Well,
fundamental particle that corresponds to that?
We don't know. I mean, if we did know if there was a fundamental particle that transmitted information about gravity, like a graviton, that would unite the four fundamental theories of physics. You know, the weak and the strong nuclear force, electromagnetism, and gravity have never been unified into one sort of underlying theory of everything, which is what string theory attempted to do, although it's had some problems. But it spawned new theories, and it has child theories that are perhaps more promising. Mm-hmm. It's a very commonly referred to fact that the last thing, like Einstein's greatest unsolved problem, was him trying to unite gravity and the electromagnetic force into some sort of underlying thing. Like Maxwell united electricity and magnetism into his set of equations, Maxwell's equations, and he united them into the electromagnetic force, which has just a simple set of equations to describe all those forces. And in fact, you can do that with the weak nuclear force and the strong nuclear force, as well as electromagnetism. So all three of those can be described using a fundamental set of theorems. It's easier to learn about them separately, but there are fundamental theorems that will describe all three of those forces.
Is the Higgs field... What doesn't the Higgs field... So the Higgs field imparts mass.
No. Yeah, the Higgs field isn't gravity, though. So the Higgs field has to do with why things have mass. It doesn't have to do why that mass then attracts to other sources of mass.
Okay. I don't know any of the things. So, okay.
Oh, you do? You know plenty.
No, so you had a question about gravitrons, though, like specifically.
Right. I don't know. I was asking whether or not you thought that gravitons existed, and if we'd ever be able to like harness them to have like things like anti-gravity. Do you think that's like a technology we might ever see? I don't think we'll ever see it. I don't think we'll live long enough.
No, I don't think that we will live long enough to see it if it happens. I think,
barring the Matrix.
I mean, the idea though is that gravity is a property of mass and not some sort of dish. I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I have no idea. I wish I understood physics better, but like whenever I go ahead and I'm like, I should learn physics, and they start off with like, here's a spring and potential energy. I'm like, this is not physics. This is boring physics. This is like person walking on a train while the train is moving. How fast are they going? This isn't what I signed up for. I want to learn about the Higgs field and the quarks and the gluons and the dendrites and the other
So I'm pretty sure you have to start with math. I'm pretty sure you have to learn a lot of math first.
Well,
and learn that.
Well, I think part of the thing as well is that a lot of physics is taught it's kind of either side by side with or before people take calculus in their curriculum. So a lot of it is kind of restricted to the subset of physics that can be understood without a heavy dependence on calculus. Which
is really weird considering how big a deal they make out of Newton. And like Newton realized all of his things because he was making calculus.
Right.
Like he was coming up with the laws and theories of calculus.
Well, it's also like you can't go from like acceleration to velocity without calculus. Like it puts a very big damper on what you're able to do in kind of introductory physics courses without going, if we're just full on calculusing.
This podcast feels very rambly.
This one?
Yes, this one in particular. I can't wait to see how you edit it.